Welcome to a rainy day edition of our prep football preview. I'm sports editor of the Gazette, Gabe Wilson, alongside Philip Gardner, Richard Walker. I'm going to give these guys 3 questions, just to give them a few seconds each to answer. First question this week is obviously South Point's the favorite in this big matchup between South Point and Ashbrook. But what does Ashbrook have to do to maybe get a win in this game and make a good ball game out of it?
I think 2 things. Ashbrook's a big play team, and they've got to have several big plays to come out on top. Not only that, but they've got to come after on defense, because nobody has really shown that they know how to stop South Point's triple option attack. I expect Desmond Lowry to be back at quarterback, and Ashbrook's defense really got to be on top of his game if they want to slow down South Point's offense.
The real challenge that I see is the teams that have given South Point the most trouble play ball control football. Well, Ashbrook, that I've seen, when they're going good, that's not them at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a real challenging matchup for Ashbrook, certainly on emotion, and they've always played tough. And this series is littered with just countless 1- and 2-play games. I mean, back to the 70s when it started, so I expect it to be one of those kind of games. But from the times I've seen the 2 teams play, I think it's a very challenging matchup for Ashbrook, because what they do best is to score almost too quickly, because South Point's offense keeps the ball all the time, and really, that just wears on your defense the way they play it, because you're so focused on what Desmond Lowry's doing that you forget about Aaron Crumley or the pitch man, and it's just, you've really got to be buttoned up and make them go 3 and out a bunch of times and kind of play keep away and make them press a little bit. So if they get 2 yards on that dive play on first down, that makes that 2nd and 8 call a little more challenging. But if you get the ball the whole game, as I anticipate South Point having it makes it easier for that offense to run. I think it's a real challenge for Ashbrook, but emotion and the rivalry being what it is, I expect them to find a way to try to do something to stop them. But I'm like you, Phil. I don't know how they can do that, but that'll be real interesting. The way Ashbrook has been successful does not seem to me to be the recipe to upset South Point.
A couple of usual conference contenders, state playoff, deep playoff teams. Lincoln and Crest took losses last week. Richard, which one of those teams can you see getting off the mat and coming back strong the rest of the season?
Well, you need to look no further than last year. Lincoln, I believe, was 1-4, goes all the way to win the state championship. East Lincoln's always an emotional game. I was surprised by the score of that game. I had actually picked East Lincoln to win, but I didn't see it being a blowout, particularly not with the backup quarterback for East Lincoln, but certainly he looks to be comparable to their starter, Josh Wilson.
Right.
The East Lincoln kids have been to this before. I mean, Coach Kleininger is selling them on the notion of, look, guys, we were 1-4 last year. We don't have to even go in as the number 1 team in our conference. They've won road playoff games. I just think their recent history is very much weighted to make Lincoln the more challenging team. And plus, I think that conference challenges you week to week to week, which will make whoever gets out of that conference into the playoffs make the playoffs. I don't know easier, but certainly you'll not see anything you haven't seen already in conference play, and that's double for Lincoln given their non-conference schedule.
How about you on that?
Well, the problem with Lincoln trying to win a conference championship, East Lincoln has to lose to somebody, or Lincoln's not going to win the conference title. East Lincoln's already knocked off North Lincoln, already knocked off Lincoln, 2 of their biggest hurdles, and if they run the table, then obviously they're conference champions. Crest controls his own destiny. They've still got to play South Point the last game of the regular season, so Crest can still get back in that conference championship picture just because of the schedule.
Final question: the best environment that or one of the top environments that you've been a part of since you've been covering high school football?
Well, to me, there's 2 games that really stand out. They're both in the snow. When I saw South Point play at Carver on a Sunday, a game that was snowed out from a Friday, that game really stands out. I believe it was 2002. It was the year that Ashbrook won a state title. South Point was playing Carver in the state semifinals. Lost that game, but it was really interesting because it was basically a mud bowl. Rich was there also. The snow had been plowed off the field, but the grass had been plowed off with it. The very next year, South Point was at Asheville in another snow game, a game that actually propelled them to an eventual state title. So those are the games that really stand out to me, just because you don't see the snow very often.
And I would agree with Phil, and in fact we were talking about this before we did their taping today. I don't think you may ever see a snow game in the state, because the state is so worried about gate and the way that snow hit. The snow didn't hit till 6 o'clock.
Right.
So South Point had already made the trip, so there was no turning back technically, because I remember we had a tough time just getting back, as did teams and fans. But I'll go another old school game. I remember I was a sophomore in high school the year South Point won the state championship in '79. And there wasn't any snow, but it was about 12 degrees on High Brighton Mountain, and South Point beat High Brighton to win the Western Finals. And Jeff Williams, who's now an assistant coach at South Point, was a quarterback and scored early in the game. And then I think he rolled his ankle in that game. And High Brighton with Chuck Cannon, who's now High Brighton's coach, ironically enough, came all the way back and had gotten to the goal line. And I can't remember, might have been Todd Armstrong, who's now deceased, made a play for South Point, an interception. But I remember the atmosphere of that game, because as we all know, South Point's going to travel, no matter how far it is. And High Brighton and Lenore was really excited about it. It was a really neat atmosphere, and I had relatives in my Walker side of the family that are all up in Lenore, and so I had a real good time going to that game, and I always remember that. And that was the first year South Point won the North Carolina High School Athletic Association state championship, and that was a really neat game in it. But like Phil said, I mean, you're never going to see snow in high school football games, and we saw 2 in 2 years, which is just remarkable.
Right. Good job, guys. That'll do it for this week. If you have any questions you'd like to see these guys answer, feel free to send them in to sports@gastongazette.com, and we'll see if we can get them on. That'll do it, and we'll see you next week.